can sit in the pine trees, he can sit alone. You can breathe the sigh of silence in the woods.
Jake Bugg, hello, how you doing?
I'm alright, mate, how are you?
Good, good. You've been kind of on the road for like a year and a half now. This is the dream, right, isn't it?
Yeah, man, and, you know, I left school and wrote songs for a bit and got signed, and so I don't really know anything else really, it's just like, that's all I have to do.
Now, you played us a song from your new album, it's called Shangri-La, named after the studio it was recorded in, which is the music legend Rick Rubin's studio in Malibu. That must have been quite a different experience to recording the first one, wasn't it?
The first album was recorded in various parts of England, and a lot of the songs were demos as well. Where this time I was in a beautiful setting with the sun shining, and you know, I could see the Pacific Ocean. You got Zuma Beach, and you know, just recording the whole album there in its entirety, and it was great, man. It was like a holiday for me. That.
Is it hard to play the blues in such luxurious surroundings?
Is it hard to play the blues? Well, it can be quite. I think it was Jimi Hendrix who said it when you start, you know, earning more, then it becomes easier to play the blues.
Sure.
But I think like with the first album, I was singing a lot about the things that a lot of my, you know, people that I knew and where I was from, just the people were going through the same things. Whereas now I've had a lot of experiences and things that, you know, a lot of people don't get to do, and it can be hard to explain that to people in a way that they can understand, and so it becomes, you know, it keeps locked up inside. So the way to express it for me is through my music.
So when you go back to Nottingham, you know, is there a sense with some people that, oh, you know, here he is, Mr. Big Shot now? Do you get any of that?
Truth is, you're going to change as you meet new people, and you know, you learn about different traits of the human being, and that's part of life. And I hope that, you know, I just, you know, change it into a better person. And people always think that, you know, you're rolling around in limousines and stuff, but you know, it's not. Music industry is not like that anymore.
We were talking about like the support slots that you played. You supported Noel Gallagher and the Stone Roses and the Rolling Stones, in fact, the daddies of the lot. Are you sort of seen by those kind of elder statesmen of rock as kind of, you know, like the keeper of the flame, as it were? Do you get that kind of feeling?
Oh, well, it's inspiring for a young artist like me. I think for any artist, that people that you've, you know, looked up to as, you know, for inspiration or as being an influence, take an interest in what you do in your music, and that's one of the most inspiring things. It's a real incentive to carry on and, you know, and try and, you know, keep what they left behind, and, you know, so and hope that, you know, a lot of people my age, you know, I can, through my music, try and introduce them to a lot of, you know, those older guys that put so much great music out there.
I can't stop loving you.
It's quite clear that your music is mainly inspired and influenced by that kind of era, 60s and 70s. In fact, one of the songs you did for us today was written in the 50s, the Don Gibson song. Do you think music was just better then?
Back in like the 60s and the 50s, all that time, all these musicians were hanging out, and, you know, it was, you know, there was a lot of culture behind it, and just the people sharing songs. They want, you know, the internet, you couldn't just go on it, like, you learnt songs off each other and stuff, and, you know, great parties and all that. Whereas now that doesn't really happen so much. It was, you know, it's, everyone's trying to better each other, and you know, bands and musicians, it's all about egos and, you know, being competitive.
As well as yourself, I mean, you're a very young man, you're 19 years old, but like a band like the Stripes, for example, they're even younger than you, I think, and they're sort of ploughing the same kind of furrow. Do you think there's a kind of a resurgence of guitar music? Is it a reaction to the last sort of 10 years of X Factor and that kind of thing?
Not really, no. I mean, a band like the Stripes, as good as of a band they may be, you know, I think they could really, you know, have much greater songs, and I think their album could have been much better. I hope that more, like, you know, it don't necessarily even have to be, you know, kids coming through guitars or whatever. It could be any music. I think that's where people try and, you know, pick me up on my concept of authenticity, and, you know, just because, you know, somebody might play an electronic keyboard, but, you know, if they mean it and it's, you know, and they're trying to express what they mean and that's the way they're doing it, then that's authentic. But, you know, there's always going to be, you know, generic pop stuff around, but I think that helps complement, you know, the good stuff when it comes along.
Do you read reviews and stuff like that? Do you bother about that?
I don't read reviews. I appreciate constructive criticism, you know, somebody telling me that, you know, that it was amazing is not much better for me than someone telling it was awful. But, you know, because I can't learn anything from either of those things. You know, I appreciate constructive feedback, but I don't go reading reviews and stuff like that because it's just music's so a subjective, you know, thing, and you know, it's just one person's opinion. No matter how influential that person may be, that's the bottom line.
Okay. All right. Well, best of luck with it, and thank you very much for everything.
Thank you very much.
You're the one it happens to. Stuck in Speed Bump City, where the only thing that's pretty is the door to get